Next on KQED Newsroom, the drought plus an early heat wave spell a hot fire season. Coming back with Wes Moore, an intimate glimpse of veterans returning home from the front lines.
We know that the bullets will stop fighting, the bullets will stop flying, but the wars that many of us are facing, even as we come back home, will not.
And a look at some key local races in the upcoming June primary.
Good evening and welcome to KQED Newsroom. I'm Thuy Vu. California is facing a dangerously high fire risk this year. Wildfires burning in the San Diego area this week provide a warning sign of what may be ahead. Record temperatures and a statewide drought have heightened concerns as Cal Fire gears up to fight what could be the worst fire season in decades. Joining me to discuss the danger is Paul Rogers, San Jose Mercury News environment writer and managing editor for KQED Science. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Well, what is the latest on the Southern California fires?
You know, for the last 4 days, there have been fires all across San Diego County. Basically, there are 10 fires. 5 of them are out now. We had 3 days of really extremely hot, dry weather with Santa Ana winds, those winds that blow from the land out to the ocean and often are connected with high fire risk. And, you know, 22,000 acres burned, about 10 homes have burned down so far. But the firefighters today, Friday, got the upper hand on a lot of them because the weather cooled down, humidity levels went up. And, you know, San Diego, at least for now, got off relatively okay. I mean, quite scary, but again, not a lot of houses. There was one fatality, a homeless person who died. And this was really a warning to the rest of the state of what we could be in for this summer.
And there were some arrests.
Yeah, there were 2 teenagers, one 17-year-old, one 19-year-old, who were arrested in Escondido. They were playing with fire, basically. Now, they haven't made a connection between their arson with any of these fires, but there are arson investigators working these fires because it's unusual to have 10 fires all burning at the same time in the same general area.
Let's broaden this out to the rest of the state. How bad are fire conditions right now statewide, and particularly here in the Bay Area? Yeah,
usually you hear me on this program talking about environmental risk, and I'm trying to usually talk people down, saying, you know, those tiny trace amounts of pesticides or the risk of getting eaten by a mountain lion when you're hiking, it's really not as bad as you have to think about, and you know, you need to wear your seatbelt instead and worry about other things. I'm telling you, you really need to worry about fires this summer. This is the most dangerous summer we're coming up on in 25 years at least. Since the 1987 to 92 drought, which was a 6-year drought, this drought is more pronounced and more severe. We're in the 3rd year of it. As folks might remember, 2013 was the driest year in state history, all the way back to 1850 when California became a state. So we have extremely dry conditions, and we have a lot of places that haven't burned in a long time, and it doesn't take much to have 2 or 3 or 4 fires, all like the Oakland Hills fire, which, by the way, was in 1991 in that dry period.
Are we then seeing sort of a perfect storm of the kinds of conditions we saw right before the 91 Oakland Hills fire?
Yeah, and what's scary about this year is fire engineers and fire scientists measure the moisture content in different types of fuels, in chamise and in grasses and other things. And the moisture contents right now that they're seeing around California are at levels they normally see in August, and it's only May. So to deal with this, because in a lot of ways we got lucky last year. We had a very dry year. Everybody remembers the Rim fire, the big fire that burned for a month near Yosemite. But that was the only big fire in California. It turned out to be a relatively average year. It's very unusual to have a year so dry year after year and to not have multiple fires. So, you know, I think that's why the state, why Governor Brown and others have been putting more money toward this. They're staffing up fire stations all over California now on summer levels, which normally don't happen till June or July.
Well, in fact, we seem to never really transition out of fire season.
Yeah. In Southern California, you know, the joke down there is fire season ended December 31 and it began January 1. Yeah. And, you know, all across the West, with the climate warming, what we've seen, and there's a lot of studies to back this up, is a longer fire season in the West, more days a year when you have the hot, dry conditions with low moisture in plants, low moisture in the soil, so you don't get much evaporation, which leads to humidity, which can reduce the fire risk. And, you know, although this is a particularly hot, dry period this week, and we're going to get some easing over the weekend and into next week, this is sort of the shape of things to come for generations ahead. These are the kinds of conditions we're going to be seeing more of in California.
And in fact, Governor Jerry Brown went on CNN this week and said that he thinks climate change is a factor here in this fire season. I don't want to leave without talking about your personal situation. You and your family were touched very personally by fire. Are there some lessons here that you can share for everyone else?
Yeah, my sister, who lives in Colorado Springs, Colorado, she lived in a house 2 stories at the end of a cul-de-sac, just like any that you'd see in Walnut Creek or San Jose or other Bay Area neighborhoods, not out in the woods in a cabin. And there was a major fire in Colorado Springs in 2012. It jumped off the mountains into neighborhoods. It burned down 300 homes, including hers. And she and her family are okay, and they've since rebuilt. But what they learned, and was a good lesson to me, and I think is something people in the Bay Area should remember, you need to go through your house with the video camera, with your cell phone, take videos of your possessions. Because if you lose your house, the insurance company asks you to write down everything you owned. And if you have to evacuate, grab that computer. That's the first thing she grabbed. Unplug the keyboard, unplug the monitor. That's all your tax records, your photos, throw that in the car and go from there. So people should really be aware, clear the brush, and remember it can happen to us.
All very good tips. Paul Rogers, KQED Science Managing Editor, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And now, as we approach Memorial Day, a look at issues faced by veterans. The leadership of the Veterans Administration has been under fire this week. At issue, long waits for care at VA medical centers across the country. It's another reminder that after facing combat overseas, veterans often come home to other battles. A new 3-part series takes an unflinching yet hopeful look at the lives of service members returning home. Coming Back with Wes Moore began airing on PBS this week. Scott Shafer spoke earlier with Wes Moore, but first an excerpt that tells the story of Bobby Henline. He suffered burns on 40% of his body when his Humvee was hit by an IED in Iraq.
In those years, Bobby discovered a talent. He could find the comedy in his wounds and his scarred face. His humor could break the tension people felt when they met him. Now, telling jokes is Bobby's calling.
And he's known as the well-done comedian, Bobby Henline!
Yes, I am a wounded warrior. I was in the Army. I did 4 tours of Iraq. Thank you. Gotta say, like most soldiers, I love my job, had a great time. But seriously, folks, that last tour was a real blast.
Wes Moore, welcome.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
So we meet throughout the course of these documentary films a number of veterans and their families. How did you decide who to choose to focus on, and what kinds of stories were you looking to tell?
I think the 2 main things that I really wanted to find in terms of the people that we would follow was, one, were they willing to be transparent? Were they willing to let us into their lives during the good times and the bad times? Because we really wanted to give a fair understanding to the audience of what this transition is like. So we didn't want people to say, well, you know, you can film this, but you can't film that. We wanted people that were willing to be open and honest. And I think the second big thing we were looking for was we wanted people who were extraordinary in their own ways, but in many ways they also are very ordinary, because there are tens of thousands of people whose story they represent as well.
And we saw at the beginning there the clip of Bobby Henline. I want to show another clip from him and his family, his daughters, talking about him and his recovery and what they went through. Then we'll come back and talk.
Yeah.
Even whenever my dad got out of the hospital, we never saw him. I mean, my mom would be doing wound care for 7 hours a night. When he came home, he lived in a chair for like a year. He would lay in it like propped up, and he had like wound vacs all over him, and we couldn't have the dogs near him because the hair could get in his open wounds. We couldn't have the ceiling fans on because it would dry out his eyes and dry out his scars, and he needed to keep them moist and because they were open wounds, and we couldn't. There was just a lot of rules.
I felt like a big burden on my family, and I thought I'd be better off dead. I'd pray to God to let me fall asleep at night and not wake up.
So Wes, obviously it's not just the veterans, but their families, the wives, the children. It is really a joint effort to make that transition back home. What makes the difference between making it and not? Because they don't all make it.
They don't all make it, and that's one thing people have to understand is that when people deploy, everybody's all in on the deployment. Families are all in too, and I didn't notice that until my own personal deployment, where I always thought that soldiers were the ones who had it toughest, and I didn't realize until I deployed myself that I realized that it's actually the families who have it much tougher than we even have it, because when we're deployed, we have good days and we have some very bad days, but we always have each other. And we lean on each other and we support each other. That's not always the case with the families.
What makes the difference between somebody who makes it through to the other side and succeeds and goes on with their life, and somebody who doesn't, or who has really struggles?
Well, and that's one of the things I really wanted to explore with that, is I started realizing that, people say, well, it depends on, these people have had, 5 deployments or 10 deployments versus 1 deployment, and that really doesn't play a factor or a role in things like unemployment, suicide rates, et cetera, or where the person saw massive amounts of combat versus not. That doesn't play a big factor. Officer versus enlisted doesn't play a big factor. I think one of the things that we see that does play a major factor, though, is what type of service network and service support network is that person returning to, and what type of service network does that they're coming to with their family. One thing that we notice is that the unemployment rate and the suicide rate of veterans literally track one another, and so jobs matter. Supports with other veterans and making sure that they feel supported when they're reintegrating, that matters. And so there's a whole collection of things that I think play into whether or not a person succeeds.
And of course we all want to tell the stories like you have, and the problems, the struggles, the challenges that they face, and yet I'm wondering if to some extent do veterans worry that they're being somehow tainted through their honesty and through the accountability that the VA is being held to in all these stories about the issues that they face?
Well, I think one thing veterans want people to understand is that, whether it be PTSD or TBI, traumatic brain injuries, or suicide rates or unemployment, these are all real issues. You won't talk to many veterans who won't acknowledge these are things that our community are wrestling with. But I think our veterans community also wants people to understand that that's not the whole story. And we're not just ticking time bombs waiting to go off, and we're not charities that somehow need to be fixed. We're people who are ready to contribute. We're investments. And I think one thing the veteran community wants us to do, that we actually try to do with coming back, is tell the whole story. Talk about the issues, but at the same time, talk about the extraordinary men and women who are coming back, who are ready to continue to contribute.
You, of course, are a veteran yourself. How big a deal was that in terms of the relationships you had with the men and women you talked to, and their willingness to trust you?
I think the fact that I was a veteran was very helpful, because there's certain conversations that I don't need to have with another veteran, because we just understand.
Like what?
Like, what it was like to deploy. What it was like to get on that plane and leave your family. What it was like to land down in Afghanistan or Iraq for the first time. What it was like to have your first meal over there. What it was like to feel the heat in the blistering summer, or feel the freezing cold when you're up in the mountains in the winter.
Is it possible, if you weren't a veteran, if you weren't there, to really understand fully what these men and women have gone through?
If you weren't in combat, it's still very possible to be able to understand what combat was like and to get these stories, but it just means that you have to be ready to engage. One thing I think happens with a lot of veterans community, where we hear people say, thank you for your service, and then that's it. And the conversation is now over.
They feel like they're done.
They feel like they're done. They've done what they needed to do. I thank them for their service. Now I can move on.
Yeah.
And I feel like for a lot of veterans, we appreciate that, but we actually want that second question. We want the ability to be able to talk about our experiences and share our experiences without feeling like there needs to be a timeline on what that experience should be.
And just quickly, the country in many ways has moved on. The Iraq War is over. The Afghanistan War is winding down. Americans can't see us get out quickly enough. And there's a disconnect, isn't there? Because these veterans and their families are still struggling with many of these things, and will be for many, many years to come. How big a problem is that disconnect between the vast majority of American people and these families?
This disconnect is very real, because we're coming off of 2 of the longest wars in our nation's history, and less than 1/2% of our country's population actually has any direct involvement in those wars. And really, one of the things I try to do with coming back was just ask that question. The bullets will stop flying, but the wars that many of us are facing even as we come back home, will not. And it becomes a major priority for me and so many of our community just to make sure that our country doesn't forget about us.
All right, Wes Moore, executive producer and host of Coming Back, airing now on PBS stations across the country. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
And Coming Back with Wes Moore airs on KQED TV 9 Tuesday at 8 p.m. Well, the June primary is less than 3 weeks away. That means it's crunch time for local candidates and for groups pushing ballot measures. In San Jose, residents will vote for a new mayor, while San Francisco and the East Bay are battlegrounds for key state and congressional races. Also in San Francisco, a fight over height limits on the waterfront is on the ballot. And joining me now to discuss these races and measures are Terry Christensen, Professor Emeritus at San Jose State University.
Hi, Twee.
Chuck Nevius, San Francisco Chronicle reporter. And our own Scott Shafer with KQED. Terry, let's begin with the San Jose mayor's race. Who are the 5 major candidates and which ones are considered frontrunners?
There are a total of 8 candidates, but 5 who are real contenders. And 4 of them are incumbent city council members. A couple are termed out, a couple will continue their terms. And the 5th is a county supervisor. So they're all well-established politicians. They've been elected and re-elected. And at least 3 of them are major contenders, I think.
And that would be Sam Liccardo, Madison Nguyen, and Dave Cortese.
That's exactly right. Those are the 3 that have really raised significant funds and have significant campaign operations.
What's the biggest issue in the race?
That's a little hard to tell. What they're all talking about is public safety. And related to that, pension reform, because pension reform is what reduced our police force by about 400 officers. And so public safety has been a big issue in the neighborhood. So that's what people are talking about. That's what shows up in the polls. The candidates, I don't think, have really managed to differentiate themselves on that issue of public safety and how they'll get more cops back. But the big difference is Dave Cortese, the supervisor, is more in favor of pulling back on pension reform. He's union supported. And the other major candidates are defending what was in San Jose Measure B, the pension reform that Mayor Chuck Reed led on.
Everybody's being so nice to each other, though. Are you sure this is really a campaign? It seems like it's kid gloves so
You're just
far.
used to San Francisco.
Maybe that's the difference. It's not a San Francisco.
We're not San Francisco. And don't worry, you'll get nasty after the primary.
Good.
There's no payoff to being nasty in the primary because you're more likely to alienate people from yourself as the candidate going negative than to help yourself. So we'll see plenty of that, especially with independent expenditures, which have become huge in San Jose after the primary.
And Terry, the incumbent, of course, Chuck Reed, not running, he's been a big proponent of pension reform. And of course, there have been a lot of layoffs in the police department and the fire department as well. So how is that issue of public safety playing out? Because on the one hand, you might say, well, you know, we've been too mean to the police, and you know, people don't want to come work here, and it's hard to recruit. But then, on the other hand, we can't afford it. So how do you shake it out? What's the answer?
I don't think they've got a good answer. They're all struggling for that, and they're making promises, but without a lot of substance about how they can follow through on actually getting more money to hire more police. There's talk about putting a sales tax measure on the ballot, but most of the candidates are reluctant to endorse a tax release, a tax increase. There's talk about further pulling back on the pension reforms so you can get some of the police officers back, maybe raising the level. We now have two-tiered pension system, so more recent employees are at a less advantageous pension, and that might be part of the problem with recruiting, so they might need to raise that a little bit. So there are different ideas, but I don't think anybody's really honed in on the
And how does that all shake out for Chuck Reed? I mean, is he popular? I mean, is his endorsement matter, or is it all that pension stuff sort of rubbed off on the other candidates in an unhelpful way?
Chuck Reed, well, he's won 2 elections. You have to say he's been a successful candidate. I don't think he's beloved as mayor, and partly that's because he's been grinding away at budget deficit, pension reform, and big cuts in public service to operate on the budget that's available. So I wouldn't say he's a beloved mayor. I think his endorsement will matter in the runoff. He hasn't endorsed in in the primary election because he's got 4 allies running. So why should he? So he'll endorse, and he could be helpful with fundraising and so on, but he doesn't have big coattails.
And he did emerge as a national voice on the pension reform issue. Labor issues are also a topic in the East Bay, Scott, particularly in the 16th Assembly District race, where labor groups have really been hammering hard at Steve Glazer, who wanted to campaign, who had a campaign to bar BART strikes.
That's right. He's, of course, an ally of Jerry Brown, who's a political consultant. He's also the mayor of Orinda. Really made a name for himself during the BART strike. Last year, he was at the BART stations with having people sign petitions opposing strikes for public workers, especially transit workers, and that, of course, really helped to elevate his profile. But then you got Tim Sabranti, who is running against him, another Democrat. He's the mayor of Dublin. He's getting a lot of support from Labor, and I think Labor sees this as kind of a real must-win in a sense, because you've got this candidate, a Democrat, who's getting a lot of attention and money and votes potentially by opposing Labor, and I think they see that as very risky.
Don't you see this as a really fascinating moment, because that BART strike was old-style Labor negotiations, and the idea that there's been so much pushback from it, and somebody like Glazer is trying to ride that, it could be really interesting, so to speak. Yeah, it could be interesting to see how that affects.
Absolutely, and there was a field poll last year that even here in the Bay Area, support in the Democratic bastion of California for Labor much smaller, lower than it was, and so I think he's got an issue. He's holding on to it, and we'll see how it plays out in this first round of voting in June, but potentially it could really scramble the dynamics within the Democratic Party.
Scott, there's a chance, isn't there, that the Republican candidate could be in the top 2? I think it's 32% Republican registration in that district.
There is. It's a very purple district, I'd say. And so, you've got this attorney, Catherine Baker from Pleasanton. She's getting support from the Chamber of Commerce. They're also supporting Glazer. It'd be interesting to see what happens if it's Glazer and Baker and how that shakes out. But you absolutely could. The top 2 primary is going to be, could be 2 Democrats, could be a Republican and a Democrat. You just don't know.
What are some of the other key races in the East Bay? We've got Congressman George Miller, who retired. Yeah,
that's always a surprise. He was there 40 years, and whenever those seats don't come up very often, and so when he announced his retirement, you would have thought there'd be like a rush of candidates signing up, kind of like we did when Pelosi ran back in 1987 when Sal Burton died. But
that didn't happen.
It did not happen. I mean, you've got Mark DeSaulnier, the state senator from that area. He seemed to have it wired. I mean, the day that Miller announced his retirement, he announced he was running, and people have sort of fallen right in line. No one else has announced of any seriousness that they're running. So
we were saying there was just a drumbeat of endorsements for DeSaulnier too. He had them lined up. He had one. It seemed like every day we got a notice saying so and so, this group is endorsed.
There's like an air of inevitability about him very, very quickly. And then the other race over there, Eric Swalwell, freshman congressman, had knocked off Pete Stark last time around. Ellen Corbett, the state senator, is challenging him again in this top 2 primary system, saying he's too moderate, he's too inexperienced, he's not ready to be in Congress. Of course, he is in Congress already, but we'll see how that shakes out. And
does he have a tougher race this time than against Pete Stark, who we had portrayed as old and out of touch?
He's been very visible in the district since he got elected. I think my sense is that people like him. Pete Stark was very unpopular, and I think people were ready for a change. I don't know that that's the case this time around. He's also got now the advantages of incumbency. He's raised over $1 million. He's got relatively high visibility, and so, again, we'll see. But I think it's always tougher to knock off an incumbent than it is to get reelected.
Well, Chuck, let's turn to San Francisco, where we have the battle of the Davids in the assembly race, David Chu versus David Campos. What's the biggest issue there?
Well, that's the problem. There isn't a big issue. The 2 Davids are actually very close politically. David Chu said we're just different shades of blue, and that's kind of the way it is. So Campos has decided that he's going to have to rough up David Chu, and he has. He's painted him as a tool of the corporate interests, the Chamber of Commerce, the developers, those kinds of things. And the frustrating thing for Chu's supporters is that he's a very thoughtful, kind of wonky guy who wants to take his time, and he doesn't want to fight back. He started with a double-digit lead, and it's now down to almost a dead heat.
So do you think he's going to change his tactics and get a little more aggressive at striking back against Campos?
Well, and an interesting thing has happened. He is it's like a schoolyard fight. Everybody's yelling, come on, hit him, and he's reluctantly doing some of that. But now there's been some independent expenditures. And a very rough ad came out this week, harking back to the Ross Mercarimi problem when the sheriff was accused of domestic violence, and then the question was, would he be reinstated as sheriff? And I don't think anyone realized that this was going to have the legs that it does, but Campos voted in favor of reinstating the sheriff.
And Chu voted against reinstating the sheriff.
No, Chu
did.
Chu did.
Chu did.
Campos voted
Campos
for it.
voted, Campos voted for it.
Yeah.
Enough. There were enough votes. There were 4 votes in favor of reinstating him, and therefore the sheriff got his job back. There's an ad that came out this week that has a woman saying, my daughter was killed by a domestic violence incident. I cannot believe that Sheriff Ross Mercury has his job, and I cannot believe that David Campos voted to reinstate him.
What about, Chuck, the ethnic politics here? You've got David Campos, who is Latino. He's also gay. You've got David Chu, who's Asian American. I know that the gay newspaper, the BAR, supported the straight candidate, David Chu.
Right.
How is that working out in this race?
It's actually fascinating, because that was conventional wisdom, is that they both had their bases. The Asian base for David Chu and also the moderate base, and then David Campos would have the progressives, who would also have the Latino vote, and he would have the LBGT. But the LBGT vote turns out to be thin. It's not. It sounds counterintuitive, but it makes perfect sense. There's actually a much more moderate group of LBGT people in San Francisco than you realize. They're homeowners. They've been here for years. A lot of them are in committed relationships. They have families. A lot of the family value things play very well for them. So I think that's one of the things, and that's one of the things I think Campos has seen, is we've got to rough this guy up. We've got to push him.
I don't want to leave this discussion without touching real quickly on Proposition B. That's the measure that requires voter approval of any building that exceeds existing height limits. There seems to be a lot of public support. Where do you see this going?
Well, it's an extremely popular idea. The idea, once again, that this is the same group that had no wall on the waterfront. They come up with a great motto, which is let the people decide, which sounds great. But there are some far-reaching consequences. Over 75% of the land along the waterfront is zoned for 40 feet high. And the planning department says 40 feet is not going to cut it. You can't make the nut on your finances. So what it means is people like Art Agnos, Aaron Peskin are going to become incredibly powerful if this passes, because everyone's going to have to go to them, say, could you please support a vote? We're trying to build a 100-foot building. Would you do that? And it'll be a great moment for Art Agnos and those people.
And so will former Mayor Art Agnos run for mayor again if this passes?
He has a good line. He said, I'll run when Rose Pack and Willie Brown form a Run Art Run committee.
Well, don't hold your breath. Thank you all. Chuck Nevius, Terry Christensen, and Scott Shafer. And for all of KQED's news coverage, please go to kqednews.org. And a program note, we're off next week for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. You can tune in for an encore presentation of Hunger in the Valley of Plenty, for a look at why people who live in the San Joaquin Valley, the country's most productive farm belt, struggle to feed themselves. I'm Thuy Vu. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.